Season 3, No More Nice series continued. This episode is entitled Not Controlled by Approval: The Emotional and Physiological Cost of Needing Everyone Around You to Understand You. What happens when belonging starts feeling conditional and or transactional? What happens when someone spends years, even decades, emotionally editing themselves to avoid rejection, disappointment, conflict, emotional withdrawal, abandonment, and even silence, which is abusive in a way? Because eventually the body begins responding to the pressure of emotional, performative performance. And the body carries what the mouth never says, the silence. And honestly, some of us, and I'm raising my hand, become experts at reading rooms, whether that's an in person room, a real life room, a digital space, a group text, because approval once felt emotionally safer than honesty. What happens is we start to read tones, we definitely start to read silence. We start to read withdrawal. We start to read shifts in people's energy and their spirits. We start to read feeling when something or someone changes before anyone says anything audibly or directly to you. Because when belonging starts to feel conditional, transactional, the nervous system often stays in a chronic state of emotional monitoring. And maybe that's why so many of us, including myself, emotionally agreeable people, definitely raising my hand, feel emotionally and physiologically exhausted. Because some spaces celebrate what we provide more than who we are. It becomes a transactional, what can I get from you moment or feeling. And today we are discussing and talking about approval addiction, transactional belonging, performative faux love, FAUX, which is fake love, emotional labor, people pleasing, nervous system survival, and what happens when women, sometimes men do this too, finally stop tying their worth to usefulness. Hey y'all, I'm Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. I was raised by an incredible single mom who is my biggest fan and my bestie, my BFF, my best friend for real. I am a celebrity certified personal trainer, fitness and wellness expert, and sports and entertainment media host. I was born in Fort Worth, raised in Dallas, Texas, and built in Los Angeles, the city of angels, California. I trained at Juilliard in New York City with the School of American Ballet, becoming the world's only three-time ESPN Miss Fitness champion, appearing in over 450 fitness DVDs. And the first of those DVDs was led by the GOAT celebrity trainer, Gunnar Peterson, known for training the Kardashian family. As a certified celebrity personal trainer myself, I've had the honor of working with Robert Pattinson of Twilight and Batman, Chris Tucker of Rush Hour, and Amber Riley of Glee, Dancing with the Stars, and The Masked Singer champion. And as a sports and entertainment media host on the red carpet and press junkets and movie premieres in LA, I've had the joy of interviewing Richard Branson, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Emma Stone, Viola Davis, Tyler Perry, and Tiana Taylor, to name a few. I share my story to honor the millions of sacrifices my mom planted so that I could blossom into the woman I am still becoming. So if you're listening at home, pull up a real chair. If you're listening online, pull up your digital chair. Grab yourself some hot herbal tea, and welcome to my cozy home of Cut to the Chase at 8, now C2C TC8, her high performing, empowered, and ready to thrive circle. A 15-minute micro learning moment for macro living transformations. And I am so overjoyed that you are here because this is where we explore life, spirit, mind, and body through lived experiences and intentional growth. So join me daily for just 15 minutes twice a day at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central, because this is your daily pause for a cause, for clarity, for wellness, for allowing grace in this physical space or digital space, and for intentional decision making. Each episode, my offer to you is 3 keys and 1 reflection question. My prayer and hope is that these 3 keys are something that is practical, something grounded, and something we could sit with and carry with us throughout our day. So let's take a breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear and let's get ready. Let's get set and let's grow. Approval addiction, it's not vanity. It is often survival conditioning. And it's our nervous system learning, if people are happy with me, I'm safe. And so we become emotionally hyper aware of people's tones, their reactions, their body language, their shifts in energy, their silence. That is a big one because it is so normalized for people to basically cut you off or ghost you, disappointment and disapproval. And when we start adjusting ourselves accordingly, not consciously, but automatically, some of us become emotional shapeshifters before we ever become emotionally grounded in our truth and who we are actually purposed to be. And if I'm honest with myself, many women are rewarded for this behavior. We're taught how to maintain comfort in the room instead of how to maintain honesty with ourselves. But eventually, emotional editing creates emotional exhaustion because the body cannot continuously suppress truth without consequences, without physiological consequences. Because again, the body carries what the mouth never says. Your heart carries it. Your heart carries it also. An inaudible suppression of truth eventually becomes an audible physiological expression. And sometimes anxiety is suppressed honesty, tension is suppressed anger, exhaustion is suppressed resentment, the places and joints that feel a little heavier than normal, the unflexibility in our bodies. And hypervigilance is the nervous system preparing for emotional instability. The body keeps trying to communicate what the mouth learned to silence. And honestly, some of us learn to stop valuable, uh, being valuable and stay valuable because we were never fully convinced we were valuable without performance, without transaction, without doing a song and dance for somebody, without giving, even when we were not giving back to. I know that's a lot. And because I'm beginning to ask myself these hard questions and really examine myself in the mirror and looking at what is showing up for me and how people, places, and things respond to me, and how people have been giving me performative, transactional, faux love. And what spaces only value me and what I could bring to the table or what I could give and what I can provide and who do I know and who do they think I know instead of who I actually am. And one of those moments that deeply recently moved me, made me reflect on this, was recently losing a friend who attended and served within a church ministry. And during that season, I called the church leader that I knew personally and asked if members of the church family and the ministry that this person served in, if they could simply just send cards reminding him that he was loved. Not only were the cards never sent, I never even received a phone call back. And honestly, that moment stayed with me. Not because I expected perfection from people, but because it made me sit with a painful question. What spaces, even faith-based spaces, and people that are serving and giving their time, are we connected to, whether that is in person in real life, the church that you serve, the ministries that you serve in, the spaces and people that have quote unquote known you for years, have known you since college, What spaces are we connected to that we give our time and our energy and our spirit and our resources to, where we may only be valued for our service, for our attendance, for our consistency, for our labor, for our giving, for our usefulness, for our resources, for our money, for our income, but not genuinely cared for as people? Because some spaces celebrate what we provide more than who we are. And when belonging and inclusion and environments, whether they're digital spaces or virtual spaces, feel conditional, the nervous system often remains in a chronic state of hyper emotional monitoring, trying to perform correctly, trying to respond correctly, trying to serve correctly, trying to give up correctly, trying to show up correctly, communicate correctly, and avoid disappointing people in order to maintain emotional connection. And that also happened recently to me in a text group when I realized not only was I not invited in that space, but I was only invited so that I could do what I normally do, which is document and share people's events that I thought were, I realized they were friendly to me, but they were not friends. And I realized that this person's response to me was because they were having other conversations around me and not directly with me. And it is exhausting. It is. Especially because some of us don't even realize how much emotional labor we carry daily. Over explaining, over functioning, over helping. I am so guilty of that one. Over giving, guilty of that one. Over accommodating, overly nice, all of those things. And not being kind, but nice, right? Because this is No More Nice series. And it wasn't because I was weak, it was because somewhere along the way, usefulness and usefulness became connected to belonging. And eventually, I stopped asking, what do I truly feel? Because I was on autopilot. And eventually, we stopped asking, what do I truly feel? How do I truly feel? And then I started asking, what version of me keeps connecting to people who do this cycle, who are in this cycle of silence and abandonment and talking around me instead of honestly communicating with me and not talking about me behind my back? Because really, that's not alignment, that's emotional survival. And honestly, many emotionally agreeable people become highly observant people. And it's not because I'm paranoid. It's not because we're paranoid, but because survival often heightens observation. I know that I am now reading rooms better. I'm reading silence. I'm reading people's disconnect. I'm reading emotional withdrawal. I'm reading shifts in energy. And speaking of shifts in energy, I was recently at an event with a group of people that I know, and I noticed this one person who was doing something different. And when I noticed it, uh, and I was asked to do something, I said, that's interesting that this person, one person out of these group of people, and this has happened in multiple groups, I knew that there were conversations that no one directly was saying to me, but there was the conversations around me. And I was just like, the shift in energy. And it wasn't even necessary to directly address it because I was like, I know that there have been other conversations. So there's no point in addressing the energy because then it would be more of what it already was. Like people have made assumptions about me without having a conversation, an honest conversation with me. Because when honesty is absent, people often learn how to read what is unspoken instead. And that's exactly what I did. And honestly, some exhaustion is not physical exhaustion. Sometimes it's emotional exhaustion from constantly trying to maintain belonging in spaces that we were meant to leave. And so trying to stay useful, trying to stay chosen, trying to stay included, trying to stay of being approved is sometimes the things that we need to let go and release. Because maybe our healing is finally learning that our worth cannot remain attached to performative performance, usefulness, emotional labor, or people using our resources or our intellectual property and the things that we've learned in our lifetimes, because it eventually becomes we're trying to constantly accommodate for other people. So maybe our healing is finally becoming honest enough to remain connected to ourselves while learning how to love others by using spontaneous, assertive communication. And that's not becoming harder. It's not becoming colder. It's not emotionally unavailable. It's just honest. So here are the three keys. Key number one, some of us have learned to seek approval because approval once felt emotionally safer than honesty. And when the nervous system begins associating disagreement with rejection, withdrawal, disconnection, conflict, that's a big one for me because I've always said, oh, I don't like conflict, but conflict is necessary because conflict can mean that you are having real, honest communication with someone and you are assertively saying how you feel in the moment. Or it could also mean abandonment. And people pleasing can quietly become a physiological survival response instead of simply a personality trait, which means many of us are not simply too nice. We may actually be responding from unresolved nervous system protection patterns. Which brings me to key number two. The body often absorbs the emotional labor of suppressed truth. The body, the physiological body, your blood pressure, your heart, it can absorb that emotional labor of suppressing your voice and your truth. So when emotions consistently remain unspoken, minimized, softened, delayed, that's a big one for me, or emotionally edited. The body may begin expressing what the mouth often avoids, sometimes through anxiety, muscle tension, hypervigilance, fatigue, shallow breathing, aches and pains, digestive issues, sleep disruption, or chronic emotional exhaustion. And don't add having hormonal changes as well, because suppressed truth rarely disappears. The body still processes the stress of emotional incongruency, which brings me to key number three. Healing isn't becoming harder. Healing is creating enough internal safety and external safety to communicate honestly without abandoning ourselves. And asking, yes, it's going to get clunky. It'll be clunky initially when you start to do it, because I've experienced this with several people that I consider my friends. And for many of us, honest communication feels physically uncomfortable at first because the nervous system is adapting to a new experience, and self expression without emotional punishment. Because sometimes that punishment could be disconnect, it could be people no longer wanting you in a group or in a real setting or a digital setting, whatever that looks like. But I think a better way to view it and reframe it is those people were never your people. If people are tolerating you and not celebrating you in your face, and when you are not present, physically present, then those aren't your people. Which means SAC may feel clunky, awkward, unfamiliar, or emotionally activating initially, not because it's wrong, but because it's new. And so, our one reflection question: what emotional, relational, or physiological patterns in my life might actually be connected to suppressed self expression, emotional editing, people pleasing, usefulness based belonging, or the fear of losing approval, connection, or safety? So, before you go, I want to say thank you truly for sharing this time with me. It has been an honor to sit with you and pray with you for grace in this space. And let's quickly revisit today's three keys. Key number one: some of us have learned to seek approval because approval once felt emotionally safer than honesty. Key number two: the body often absorbs the emotional labor of suppressed direct truth to the person you actually have that truth with. Key number three: Healing is creating enough internal safety to communicate honestly without abandoning ourselves. And our one reflection question: what emotional, relational, or physiological patterns in my life might actually be connected to suppressed self expression, emotional editing, people pleasing, usefulness based belonging, or the fear of losing approval, connection, or safety? So, if today's episode offered you clarity, grounding, or a pause for a cause you didn't know you needed, or if there's anything that I've shared today that pricked your heart or lit a spark, please subscribe, share this with someone you care about, and leave a comment so that this isn't a monologue but a dialogue. And please leave a 5-star rating if you feel led, or send a text. It helps this space to grow and reach others. Now let's close with one breath. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. and again at 8 p.m. Central. This is Cut to the Chase at 8, C2TC8. Her high performing, empowered women ready to thrive circle with me, Madison Samone Chase. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get great, ready. Let's get set. Let's get ready to grow and go and be great. Blessings to you and yours until tomorrow.